What does it mean to live a resilient life? I'm Ryan Manion. I lost my brother to war and my mom to cancer, and I've learned a lot about myself along the way. Now, as the CEO of Travis Manion Foundation, I'm on a journey to explore what it means to be resilient against life's many challenges. Join me and some incredible guests as we ask ourselves the hard questions and define what it means to struggle well. Well, welcome.
Hi.
Yeah. Okay, well, first I have to say, super exciting that I have the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps in my house.
I was police calling outside. And
Your police calling?
that's how you found me.
Yeah, I mean, I saw you walking down the street and I'm like, come on inside, let's record an episode. But it's awesome to have you here. I think starting out, I will say that one of the things for me that has been really awesome to see as you stepped into this role is your outreach outside of the Marine Corps and how important that is. And I have to imagine that you're getting a lot of that same sentiment from other people. I hope you are, because the way that you've embraced this position and are actively making sure that people understand not just what you're doing, but what all the Marines that are serving are doing. You do it in such a good way.
Thanks. But I feel that I'm still failing at it. Like it's not enough, and it's not fast enough. It's not compelling enough. It's not good enough yet to reach out to people like you who are doing and have been doing this type of work for such a long time, in order to help the same Marines that are wearing the cloth that Marines before them wore. They're still here. They're still getting after it, just like the veterans before them did.
Yeah.
And so I have it in my sick mind that that somehow we're still connected, mm-hmm. and that those that are on the outside are still watching over us and are interested in what we're doing. And lives get difficult and busy, and you did your time, and you're chasing after your next dream, but somehow I still believe that you're still very much connected to us.
Yeah. And
you want to see us do well. And it's hard for me to ask more of you to, hey, if you see a Marine, you know it's on active duty, you know it's outside of a base, or you're inside of a base, whatever. Don't be afraid to engage, and I want you to engage. I want you to tell your story. I want you to at some point make the connections on the why service was worth it.
Yeah.
And then maybe you can sneak in a couple of little things about why discipline is important and why doing what you're supposed to do as a United States Marine will lead to victory. And so there's a lot of VSOs out there, and everyone's doing their very best to get after their very own thing. And there's not enough there's just not that connection I'm seeking. I just want more of the VSOs in line with what the services are looking to do, to evolve to. And there's a beauty in staying true to our ethos and our culture. There's a beauty to that. That's why we are who we are. But there's also what's next, and the evolution of the Corps. And so I'm looking to evolve the culture of the Marine Corps, but I can't do that without the veteran support as to why we need to do that. So how I started, I think I'm failing at it because I want to go faster and I want to be in several places at once and on and on and on to help us get there.
Well, you said something really interesting. You said, I think and I hope that people are still interested.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things you say you're failing, you're not failing. One of the things I think you've been able to do really well is evolve with an ever evolving society. So, for years, I think, and, kind of diving right into it when you talk about our recruiting crisis that is happening with our service branches, not the Marine Corps, but with our other service branches. One of the things I think is like, I don't know that we've evolved to meet people where they're at to keep them interested. And so as little as it is, as it may seem to you, you are finding a way to evolve, to meet people, to either keep them interested or get them interested. I was going through your social media last night. How dare you? And I was looking at your Instagram page, and I saw the video that you just posted just recently, and you have I don't know if were you in Japan, but you have everybody singing the Marine Corps hymn.
That was in Camp Schwab.
Oh, yes.
In Okinawa.
In Okinawa, yeah. Yes. And so you get everybody up on their feet, and you've got the commandant there with you, and they're all singing the Marine Corps hymn. And I don't know if you track your social media, but that video went pretty viral. That was a great post, and it was one of your most engaging posts in terms of the outreach that it got in social media on Instagram. And like that right there is capturing people in a way that it's like, wait, what is this? What is the Marine Corps hymn? What does this represent? Who are all these people? And so I don't think you even can begin to understand. Maybe you have a great social media team that are posting these engaging videos, but that kind of stuff that you're doing goes a long, long way.
Yeah. My social media team is one. But I linked that what happened in Okinawa with the Marines singing the Marines hymn. These are Marines that are forward stationed or forward deployed, right? So most of them are deployed, and they're in that theater, and they're in a different spot in their life.
Right.
They're not distracted by anything, and they are so focused because all they have is each other to sharpen each other's skill set.
Right.
And so they have gotten to that point from all their training to now deployment, and they're just gotten so darn good at what they do. So when you walk into an audience like that, they're already very tight.
Yep.
And so, they're fighting you. I step into a room and I'm acquiring frequencies. What frequencies are you in, so I can find out which one, and I can see where I need to go. And I can just feel them, like they have close ranks, and we're some bad Marines here, and we are ready to go, Sergeant Major, and I don't need hoorahs, and I don't need any of it. Like, I'm here, I'm ready.
Yeah.
But I think if anyone's in charge of morale around here, it's me. And so I wanted to signal to them that it's okay to feel a sense of pride, not just your platoon and not just your company, but to feel connected to the entire Marine Corps. And what better way than what we sing that hymn.
Yeah.
This is all across the Marine Corps, from veterans in 17, you name it, we sing it. And I don't know if you can hear it, but it's like, the grumbling, like standing up. But they can't help it because it's inside of them, this thing that's compelling them to.
They let it out.
They let it out, you know? So it's there. And it's just a way for me to remind you that you're connected to the entire Corps, and everyone is looking at you. Not just active duty Marines and reserve Marines, but those who have come before you. And I don't know if you can curse here, but
you can
fucking sing it. Like, let the hair on your arm stand up and the back of your neck stand up. So the Marine that served 50 years ago, who's now at a different place in life, that's the one thing I did that was worth anything. Or that was part of my life that really launched me into this great success of whatever. And it's just, we're connected.
Yeah.
And we're always going to be connected. I learned that from New York. I learned that from Times Square, the former Marine formation. I forget the official title that we called it, but if you're a Marine, get over the rope and stand in formation in Times Square. And they did that. So you had 60-year-olds to 28-year-olds to all generations in formation in civilian attire. And it's like they never left.
Right.
So they're doing drill movements with me. I'm moving them right. I'm moving them left. I'm doing parade rest. They were 19 years old again.
Brought it all back for them.
Brought it all back just for a few 60 seconds of their life. They were young. They were invincible. They were part of this incredible Superman outfit that we put on. We were connected to almost 249 years of history. They were there for 60. And I love that. So when you're young, you don't know that.
Right.
When you're young, you're like, more training, let's get into a fight.
Well, you're not thinking about that. You're like just in it. You're in what you're in. But I mean, I always say, you know, the first song that I ever learned, you know, front to back was the Marine Corps hymn. Mm-hmm. Like I have memories of my brother and I like in our basement and my dad like sing the Marine Corps hymn, and we'd like sing it for my dad, you know, and he was so proud that his like 4 and 5-year-old kids knew how to sing the Marine Corps hymn. Yeah. So anytime I hear that song, and I saw that video and I was like, oh yeah, it brought it back for me. So it was very cool.
It's just refills my cup as well.
Yeah.
That we can still do that. And if you're an outsider and you're looking at that video and you're looking at men and women of everywhere in this country, color, you name it, and they're in that room and they're connected by that song and they're connected by our ethos and our culture and our values. Like, what is that?
Well, that's how when I was watching it, that's how I was watching it. I was watching it from that, you know, not from me as a 5-year-old kid, not from you and what you were trying to do for the Marines in that room in Okinawa. It was for the person that's saying, what is this song? Yeah. Why are they all singing it? And why does it sound so special? Yeah. Right? And so that's a little bit what I'm talking about when I say that I love the way you're kind of evolving and getting people interested. Yeah. But I think with any organization, you have to stay true to your values and your ethos and what you represent, but you also have to kind of shift and change with an ever-changing culture and society in order to keep people wanting to come and wanting to be a part of it. Yeah. And, you know, I may be biased, but I think the Marine Corps does that really well. And I think that leads to some of the places that you are where you guys are going to hit your recruiting numbers, you know? And and again, I always say, and I said to Travis when he was showing me his battle scene, and I said, Travis, it looks like the good guys have less numbers. And he said, yeah, we have all this stuff. And I said, well, they're clearly Marines, the few, the proud. And he looked at me and he was like, what? I'm like, never mind. But, you know.
He's got long range missiles. So
yes,
so he's
yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Exactly. But I'd love to, you know, roll back and just let's talk about your path into the Marine Corps, because not that anyone is typical, but it's pretty untypical, I would say. Like, let's kind of share with us, you know, how, first of all, you were born in Mexico, and I didn't realize this, but you actually only became an American citizen 11 or 12 years ago. Is that right?
I was a gunner sergeant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know that until literally last night, as there was somebody interviewing you on one of your social media posts, and I was like, I had no idea.
It was straight laziness and apathy.
Yeah.
It wasn't for anything else, but I did fill out the paperwork.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the Marine Corps said, "You better get a clearance. If you're gonna keep a clearance, you better get it."
It's time.
I said, "Oh, okay."
But tell us a little bit about your journey into the Marine Corps. You come over to the United States at, how old were you?
I was I was sixth grade. I was a sixth grader.
Okay.
So I lived in a border town
Uh-huh.
with my mom and grandmother. And my father came back into my life later, asked my mother to, hey, let me give him a shot.
In America.
In America, let me take him and let's see. And my mom, to her credit, said, okay. And then, so I ended up going to a Catholic school, nuns, the whole thing, across the border every day. So I would go back and forth. We would cross the border every day. I go to school, and then
you'd go to school in the States and then go back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then that very next summer, when I finished that school year to try to learn a little bit of English, then my dad took me to Phoenix, Arizona, Buckeye, Arizona to be exact. And that's when I stayed with him, and I finished the rest of elementary, 7th and 8th grade, and went on to finish high school there. Small town, farms, and I knew that from my family history of my famous uncle, Vietnam vet, Wells, last name Wells. He was a doc, an Army doc, that everyone just thought that I would just do the same thing. So it was somehow it got leaked into my brain that I was going to be
You're going to be a soldier.
Service. I was going to be a soldier.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to be a soldier. I actually took a test with the Army because I didn't know the difference.
Yeah.
Marines and Army, whatever, until the Marine recruiter showed up with his uniform, and I thought, no, I want that. So he helped me because I ended up taking the ASVAB test a couple of times.
So you joined right out of high school?
Yeah, right out of high school. And I didn't know I just knew that town was not it.
Yeah.
And now it's part of Phoenix, and it's huge, and it's beautiful. But I knew I needed to run, right? And run I did. And then I think just perfect timing, my first duty station was Okinawa, which was, to this day, it's Marine Corps 101.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. And that just, I have no idea why I'm here, Ryan. I can try to make sense of it, but I have no idea how a 3051 warehouse clerk from Mexico ends up being a sergeant major in the Marine Corps. But that's why the Marine Corps is what it is.
Yeah.
This is why America is what it is. As a matter of fact, my mom ended up coming to the U.S. after I did. She became a U.S. citizen before me. She was on her way.
I love it.
Yeah, so I can't make sense of it. I just know that when the commandant picked me, something shifted in my head. Mm-hmm. It was a clock that appeared that I see every day, that I can't go to sleep on, that is just constantly ticking.
Time's running out.
Because time's running out. Yeah. And so it freed me. It let me run even faster than 30 years ago, because I see the finish line and how much can I do, how fast can I go before it's over.
Yeah.
Right?
That's very cool when you think about it.
Yeah.
At what point did you know that this was going to be, not that you're going to be sergeant major, of course, but at what point did you know, I'm going to do this for as long as I can?
I was a pretty senior staff sergeant.
Okay.
I always had one foot out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, what's on that side? What's going on out there?
Right.
So it wasn't, I was a recruiter. I went to Iraq, came back. I still wasn't maturing like I should have been, I think. Mm-hmm. And then I got to go be a drill instructor, and that's there that I really woke up, that I really thought, oh, it's about humans. Yeah. It's about people. Yeah. And the reason why I'm here is because of leaders who saw something in me, says, go do that, go do this. I was clueless. I thought I wanted to go do this, and you're not doing that. Because it was soft, it was easy, it was comfortable, it was cool in my head.
Right.
And I said, no, you need to be doing this. And they would make sure that I do the hard things and get uncomfortable and see more of the Marine Corps to have a better perspective. And so it was a long list of that, right? But I really woke up when I was staff sergeant, picking up gunnery sergeant. That's when I really woke up.
And you said your favorite position was a gunny.
It was, but I'm in my head right now. I'm thinking of Brad Castle, Sergeant Major Brad Castle.
Okay.
So, as you know, Navy Cross recipient.
Yes.
But I don't know him as that. I just know him as Sergeant Major Castle. And as a very young Sergeant Major, fast forward, there was a lot of conversations about who should be at what billets. Well, this person is more senior, so they should be on this billet. This person is more talented. Why can't this person be on that billet? It was a lot of back and forth about who gets picked to do what.
Yeah.
And how is that process?
Yeah.
And he says, okay, let's do a PME, bring all sergeants majors. This is in Camp Pendleton. And he said, I'm going to tell you what the room does to select the sergeants majors for a certain job. Before we do any of that, I want you to take out a piece of paper and write this down. And he said, the 3 reasons why you wanted to become a first sergeant in the first place, because you choose F or M, first sergeant, master sergeant. Mm-hmm. And we all, this is so annoying. So you write down your own versions, and then he said, okay, anyone want to share? I want to give back to the Marine Corps. Someone took care of me, and it was a first sergeant. My first leader was a first sergeant that really stood out to me. And he was on and on, table after table, all unselfish, all for the Corps, all for somebody else, all for the Marines, the reasons why they chose the path of first sergeants. Yep. Not that mass sergeants don't do the same, they do. But this was a room full of sergeant major. And then he just very quietly just let it go, and he says, if 20 plus years in, and this is at your true heart of it, your soul, on why you continue to serve, then why does it matter what level you're at?
Yeah.
And that just stuck with me forever. The chevron does not matter. The position does not matter. If you're really about service, then you're in the right place. And I really like that. But yes, gunny was my favorite rank. Gunny was my favorite rank because when you called somebody, they would call you back, Ryan. People call you back today. But maybe when you started, putting your vision onto.
I didn't always get called back.
You didn't always get called back, right?
I tell a story of how, as a female, I had a lot of challenges. Mm-hmm. Not only was I a female running a VSO, which try to think of any other VSO that's run by a female, but I also wasn't a veteran. Yeah. So I was like, okay, no one is going to take me seriously. And I share a story a lot when I speak to women about, having your seat at the table and basically you have to pull up your own chair, right? Yeah. And I went to the White House. They did a VSO symposium and they invited me to the White House, and I got an email, letter, and I was like, oh, finally, they're taking me seriously. And I got to the White House, I walked in, and I could see my placard, Ryan Manion. And when I walked up, there was a gentleman there, and I don't blame him, but he said, yeah, you can go take good morning, you can go take a seat anywhere along the wall. And that's where all like the executive assistants were sitting. And I was like, well, oh, okay. I said, I didn't know that's my name right there. And, having a boy's name, they all thought I was a man. No one knew when I walked up, and he was very apologetic. Yeah. But, and so then I was like, I'm at this table and it's all men. Yeah. And it was the big older VSOs. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to talk about, a different approach to the veteran service community and how we need to be meeting people where they're at, a little bit more, but also respecting the work that they were doing as well. And I felt like I succeeded because I brought up a couple key points where I got like collective nods from all the men at the table.
Yeah.
But I walked out, and I always talk about it. It was like this real pivotal moment for me when I walked out of that room, because I finally was like, all right, well, if they weren't taking me seriously before, they were now.
Yeah.
They definitely know I'm a woman, because, and they're definitely not going to make that mistake again.
Yeah.
But yeah.
When you're a gunnery sergeant, when you get to a certain level of experience, you think you're good. You think you've been around the block a few times. You have enough knowledge. You have enough sway.
Yeah.
That there isn't enough that you want all of it. Like I'll grab that, and you feel like you can take on anything. And you also feel like they higher headquarters, if they would just get out of the way, the gunnies can fix the Marine Corps, right? Same thing I imagine for majors, and same.
Yeah.
It's like when you're at a certain spot, it's like, just let me do this. I got this. And then you get promoted one more time, and you're like, oh, I don't know what I thought I knew. So it's a restart. But you said something. I picked it up the first time, meeting people where they're at. And I just link it to, I see things in pictures in my head. So I just link it to the CPG, the Commandant's Planning Guidance, right? And there's a small little sentence in there, 21st century family. Mm-hmm. And you can just read right over it and keep on reading. But in that sentence means that there's single parents that need to be looked at, and what are our policies, and how are we not helping single parents?
Right.
We're getting after the dual military, and we have a monitor now that makes sure that they're together. What about people who are divorced, who didn't work out, and have divorce decrees, and have legal obligations in different states, and how it's just more layers that are really like unpacking. Maybe people don't like marriage as much as they used to, and they want to be together and they want to raise a family, but man, I can't go to base housing because I'm not married. Like the name is not in the, so that little sentence right there is the beginning of even a deeper dive into how we best we can position ourselves to take care of as best as we can to those people who are in those positions. Yeah. Because it's not always perfect. Yep. Right? Life is it's up and down.
Well, I always say there's, so our COO at the Travis Manion Foundation is, he's a 20-year retired Marine. And we have great processes and procedures, but the bigger we get, you've got to put more processes and procedures in place. But he's always famous, and gosh, the Marine Corps won't like this, but he's famous for saying, we're not turning into the Marine Corps, because he talks about he'll talk about little things where how tough it was for little things to happen because of all of, I don't want to use the term bureaucracy, but we'll use it. But he said, we can't become the Marine Corps because it doesn't allow us to be as agile as we need to be to do what we need to do to accomplish our mission. And, and that's not a knock on the Marine Corps. Please don't take it as such. But, but you have to think about all these little nuances. And when you talk about that, that's what I'm talking about. You can set a parameter in place of these are our policies as it pertains to housing. But when you're not thinking about all those little things, the people that have been together for 20 years but aren't married, the single parents, the, dual serving couples, you have to think about all of those things. And sometimes when you put policies in place, there's not a lot of thought about all the little intrinsic things that can fall underneath that don't fit into that.
Yeah. On paper, you put down the best version of you.
Yeah.
So when you sit down and talk, and what is the Travis Manion Foundation? What do we hope to? And that is you on your best day, right? But every day, what's actually happening is your culture, the air that you breathe, what people really do. So an example, on paper, this is how you do, this is raise the colors every morning and put them down every evening. But the institution is not doing that. Travis Manion Foundation is not doing that. It's a human being that's doing that. Yeah. So it's the young Marine with the hands on the rope. It's the NCO who's teaching them how to do it. And it's the officer, and she's letting them know, she's making sure that it's done on time.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's a human being that's raising and putting, not the furniture.
I love that.
And so you have to, I said it the other day, speaking to general officers, the comment allowed me to have a seat at the table with the general officers. And I said, you can't talk about your culture like it's in a suitcase. This is who we are. And you open up your suitcase, and then honor, here's your courage, discipline, right? And then put away your suitcase and then do something else.
Right.
Right? Like we must aspire to be as close as we can to what's inside that suitcase. And that means that you have to open up the suitcase and air out your dirty laundry, and making sure that the things that are creeping in there, right? Laziness, all the things that make us not so effective, sexual harassment, sexual assault, mental health issues, like all those things that are inside that suitcase that we can do better with. It's time to, you got to make sure that you look in there and unpack it.
Yeah.
And air it out.
Yeah.
And
well, I think, and this is not just even the Marine Corps, but I think that there was a long period of time that was the norm, just in society in general, right? It was to not air the dirty laundry. Yeah. It was to keep all of that inside the suitcase, not talk about it. And if you don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. Yeah. But in fact, it just is making that suitcase like about to explode, right?
Yeah. And this generation has put a lot of pressure on staff NCOs and mid-level officers, I think, because this generation is a lot about transparency and being authentic. And so if they can't sense the frequency that you have, that you're being true to yourself, then they're just going to swipe you away, right? And they're looking to be pushed. They're looking to do hard things, as long as you show a degree of authenticity about you. Yeah. They'll follow you. Yeah. They still, Marines, civilians are still putting their phones away for 3 months to go into recruit training. There's, through YouTube and family and all the things that you see on, instantly available to you about how hard the Marine Corps can be for you, they still come. Yeah. They're still in the Camp Schwab Theater. Exactly what America looks like was inside that theater, like being represented, the best version of us. For 60 seconds, they were there, right? So it's for the Manion Foundation, I imagine that as the bigger you get, is keeping the culture where it needs to go.
And we always say that, one of the things that was important to us when we started was we were a family foundation. It was our family. I shouldn't just say it. It was our family and some Marines that Travis served with. Like that was the impetus of the organization. And no matter how big we get, I want you to feel that sense of family and tradition that started 17 years ago. Yeah. That's super, super important to us. And, and I look at my daughter just finished plebe summer at the Naval Academy. And, I took on the mom role, right? Where I'm getting she had 2 phone calls, and both phone calls were okay. The letters were, I saw a letter in that mailbox and I'm like, it's either going to be a good day for me or bad. And
The fact that you're saying letters.
oh yeah, it's letters. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. Handwritten letters. And somebody said to me, you can't ride the wave with them, because they're riding that wave and every second of the day they're in a different place.
Yeah.
But that letter that I would get, it would determine the outcome of the next few days or week till I got another letter. And if it was a bad letter and I couldn't talk to her, I'm like, crap. The whole time you're thinking about, oh gosh. But she made it through plebe summer. She's now in the academic year at the Naval Academy. And it was just this past Sunday. Because if you talk to her about it, she's like, oh, it was, oh God, plebe summer. She said, I just blacked out for all of plebe summer. She calls it a fever dream. And, but somebody said, I was with her on Sunday and someone said, how was plebe summer? And she said, it was really rewarding. And I'm standing I'm in the back and I'm like, and the gentleman walked away and I said, that's the first time I heard you say something like positive about it. I said, rewarding. She goes, the further I get away from it, the more I appreciate what I did.
Yeah.
And
she's already a Marine. Every after action, after the Marines go through something hard, they're like, it should have been longer, and it should have been harder, and it should after you're done.
Yes,
with it.
yeah. In the moment, she was like, I hate my life. I'm so lonely. This, that. But now she's like, it was a very rewarding experience. I'm like, okay, there you go.
She'll be connected. Forever.
She'll be
from
connected
that experience.
Forever. Yeah. And, and hopefully, if you ask her right now what she wants to do when she graduates from Navy, she says Marine ground. So we're keeping with it.
Okay.
Right. We'll see what happens. We said, whatever path you take, Marine Corps or Navy, is great. But,
We had the CNO come by the other day. I didn't know this, and I'll just air it out right now. But she mentioned to us that she started out as a Marine option ROTC, and she changed her option from Marine to Navy in her junior year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that either.
No, it took me by surprise.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. So to your daughter, who knows? You may end up being the CNO.
Who knows? Who knows? One of the things I'd love to, because I think that our listeners are obviously very interested in, everything that is happening in the world right now. And, I think about it from the perspective of, I'm always looking at it, again, now as a parent, I'm looking at it from the lens of my daughter and the challenges she may face in her military career. What, if you could identify one thing as the most pressing issue that the Marine Corps is addressing right now, what would it be?
Resources. So election years, budgets, delays in budgets, continuing resolutions, and just the inability to invest consistently with the right funding to procure the things that we need to fight and win the next one. We started Force Design is now almost, we're 5 years old now. Like, we flipped the Marine Corps upside down at the beginning of General Berger's tenure. And we said we are embarking on a major overhaul of the Corps in order to meet the threat. That required to buy a lot of things. And those things are coming, but they're not coming fast enough.
Certainly not fast enough for you.
Certainly not fast enough.
Ticking clock.
Yeah. So, because we need them in the hands of young Marines, young officers, to say, how you thought we should employ this, it's not the way that they need to be employed. Here, do this, do that. Because Marines do great things when they break things, and they employ it and they figure out what works best for us. And so, if we can't get these exquisite pieces of technology in our hands quicker, then we can't get our Marines to be the best that they can be with the gear. but for us, it's different, right? Because it's the Marine first. It's the
Right.
Marine is the weapon. We're not, it's, as long as we can keep making that type of Marine, bias for action, initiative, courage, all of it, does not matter the type of technology that we'll get. They'll find a way. And that's what's the biggest, advantage, and why so little Marines will keep the wolf at bay. It's just, you don't want to mess with a Marine already, but when you put Marines and then you put 21st century technology in their hand, you're going to get your ass kicked. So, this is just the way of our culture and how we think.
Yeah.
They're going to find a way to win. It's just in their nature.
So do you think, okay, and listen, everything you say, I completely agree with. I'm a Marine Corps daughter. I'm a Marine Corps sister. Maybe I'll be a Marine Corps mother someday. But when you look at where we are today, and I joked a couple times about the national recruiting crisis and the Marine Corps hitting their numbers. That's the truth. Why do you believe that the Marine Corps is the only service branch that is hitting the numbers they need to hit? And when I say that,
Yeah.
I'll ask you, not because of what the Marine represents, right? Like, what are the actual reasons? Have you guys actually looked down to identify what you guys are doing differently that other service branches are not doing, that are helping you to meet your numbers?
It is irrational to be a Marine. If you ask for data to say, why would a person choose the Marine Corps vice, any other service? The same jobs exist in another service than they do in the Marine Corps. So why does a person choose a harder, longer path? Because it's not an accident that they're Marines. It's not an accident that young people are walking into Marine Corps recruiting stations. There is something compelling about doing something hard. Mm-hmm. And so when you say recruiting crisis, and I guess from the lens of where I sit, the Marine Corps does not have a problem because we stayed consistent with our messaging, which has been war fighting.
Yeah.
That's what we do. That's why we exist. And that's attractive, very attractive to a lot of people in this country. And when I say irrational, it's like Wonderman Thompson, who does been doing our advertisement for a long time.
Yeah, J. Walter Thompson. Guess what? They designed our original logo at the Travis Manion Foundation.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if you ask them, give me the data. Where is the data that tells me why a person chooses the Marine Corps vice another service? He says, there isn't anything I can give you. It's an irrational decision. Mm-hmm. It is a version of the best America that you can be. It's inside this little group of Marines. And we have a long way to go, Ryan. Like, we got a long way to go.
Yeah.
And, but I think when we make up our mind to go that way, we go. And I think that's resonates with the American people. The Marines hymn, grown folks singing, that's different.
Yeah.
And we take pride in that. We have our own language. We say things like "oorah," and we get your latte and you say "kill," like that. It's just this cult, this tribe, whatever you want to say, that strengthens your soul to pivot to want to be a CEO of a foundation or a congresswoman or a mom or a father. You do it from a place of strength because there was a moment in time where everything you thought you couldn't do, you did, and it snowballed into a self-confidence that you can't shake anymore. And when you get knocked down, you have others that lift you up if you can't lift up yourself, and that's the beauty about service. I don't care what kind of service you do. And recruiters are killing it. Our recruiters are, we don't wait for you to come to the office. We don't wait for you to get the propensity to serve.
Right.
We give you that propensity to serve. Like, we're going to go find you. So I think that's a big difference on why we make it and we don't, and others don't. But I have to be honest in that we have very small numbers, right? So I can pump my chest and we're awesome. Compared to what the Navy and the Army have to recruit, it's
sure
very small.
It's all relative, yeah.
Very small numbers. They have beautiful people doing God's work and getting after it. Tools that were put in place years ago to make us better slowed us down, but now we're climbing out of that. And I'm talking about Genesis and the medical procedures and your entire history of ever. You fell down when you were 7 and you sprained an ankle. We're gonna know about it. So it did slow us down, but I think we're climbing out of it. Not only did the Marine Corps make it this year, but we actually
Exceeded.
So much so that we actually cut it off, and then we said, we're not going to send you to boot camp. We're going to wait. We're going to push you off to increase the pool so they can spend a little more time preparing to go to boot camp. We pushed them off to later months. So it wasn't just making it. We actually killed it.
Yeah. Well, maybe it is, you said something about your consistency in messaging. Like, you haven't changed what your messaging is, right? You want to be an elite warfighter, join the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And, but I think one of the things that, we deal with today outside of any of our service branches is, we have a lot less youth that are actually fit to serve.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem, and that's a problem not for the Marine Corps to solve. That's a problem for us to solve as society as a whole. And how do we make sure that kids have this desire to serve and this understanding of what it means to serve as well?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what we do. For us, it's about, when you take off that uniform, don't think we're not going to be knocking on your door saying, hey, all right, time to get back out there. And we'll put another clock on you. And this will be the clock for how many times can you get in front of youth in your post-military career and talk to them about your service. And so when you're saying, you're meeting the 60, 70, 80-year-old Marines that, get up there and they sing the Marine Corps hymn, for us, we want them also going back in front of kids and talking to them about what service meant in their lives, whether they were in for 3 years, 4 years, 20 years, 30 years. There is such a big disconnect. And it was probably, it's probably going on about 10 years ago, but the big buzz phrase was the military-civilian divide, right? And we've gotten, you don't hear that as much anymore as the wars have ended, but it's still there in such a big way. I talk to veterans every day that are walking into schools and getting in front of youth groups and sports teams. And, you guys are like Superman to them because a lot of these kids have no direct affiliation with a member of the military. And so when, you talk about your uncle, my dad always talks about when he was growing up, of course, his brother served, his dad served, his baseball coach served, and his teacher served, and the butcher down the street served as well, right? And so you think about what it was like for prior generations where it was never an issue for us to make sure that our youth knew about military service and knew what that meant and knew that was an option. Today, that's actually an obligation that I think we have to make sure that kids understand that opportunity exists and also that it is an opportunity, right? That it is not a last result. It is an opportunity that exists. And I think when you talk about like some of the stigmas, I think you get into some of these nuances, right? You're like unpacking the suitcase, but then sometimes the stuff you've unpacked overtakes all the really good stuff, you know? And so then just the other day, my 10-year-old son said to me, Mom, are all veterans homeless? And I said, where did you hear that? Mm-hmm. And he said, I saw it on TV. And I said, no, son, all veterans are not home. And it was probably a wonderful commercial about helping homeless veterans, right? And it was wild to me that he said that. And I said, your grandfather's a veteran. Yeah. Like, you're surrounded by veterans. Yeah. No, not all veterans are homeless. But sometimes there's this stigma that when we're trying to deal with some of the issues that can afflict our military veterans, it overtakes people understanding the incredible opportunity that it is to serve in the military.
It is. And that's why I spend my time chasing you down, because you have the character development part of the foundation. If you go to the basic school today, the TBS, right, Manion Hall down there. Yeah. Here you have young men and women who have finished the academy or finished college, and now they're finished OCS and they're doing the basic school. Different than any other service. Every Marine officer, you will be a platoon commander, right? Which is unique. Yeah. But yet we still are teaching character. Yeah. Right? So it's just because you graduate something doesn't mean you're done cooking. It's this evolution of you. And so if you're joining today, whether it was you have nothing else, or you're looking to find yourself, or you're looking, at least this is a first step to go do something else, matters not to me. Right. Because you will, if you pay attention to what's happening for a short amount of time that you're here, you just may find yourself at a place where you have strengthened that character base that maybe you were lacking a little bit. Yeah. Or you were the shy girl and now you stand with confidence, or you were that skinny boy that was missing some muscles. Whatever it is that you thought that the culture of the Marine Corps was going to change about you, it's still possible. Yeah. Right? When I speak on the best version of us, right? My inward lens is telling me, it's like this lights, it's like, because we're always looking to evolve and get better and deliver the promise of who we say we are. Yeah. Like, that's where I think I belong. We promise you something, change, and we're going to deliver it. Still, you're right. Marine Corps and DoD cannot save recruiting, cannot give propensity to serve, cannot instill national pride. That's all encompassing. That's Department of Education, ensuring that our people can pass a simple ASVAB test, the aptitude test, right? Yeah. Making sure that our kids are ready, and making sure that, the meds that we're pushing down, that maybe we need to take a second look at that, right? And so we're at a different place, sure, with our country, with who's propensed and who is qualified to serve. But when I go to TBS, when I see full rooms of Americans of all colors and sizes, well, not heavy sizes, but sizes, they represent what America is today. So I don't panic, because they're still coming. Yeah. And if someone were to rattle our cage as Americans, I think that's the biggest oh shit factor. Don't rattle the cage. If you rattle it, you don't want to mess with sizable veterans in our country today, or any other red-blooded American who's ready and willing to do whatever it takes to ensure that our way of life continues.
I love that. I mean, I will say that I think as I have kind of watched, anytime I talk to you, anytime you're talking about what the Marine Corps represents, I mean, I want to fall back in time.
You want to join?
Yeah. I'm like, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's change the age requirement. Like you have such a great way with, and I love the way that you talk about, you were talking again, somebody was interviewing you and you were talking about the kid when he goes in and that picture of him.
The before picture.
The before picture.
Yeah.
And then the after picture when he finishes.
Yeah.
And you showed a picture and it was a young kid and it was his before picture and his after picture.
Yeah.
And the transformation is remarkable. And gosh, I think for any parent just showing that, it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Like your daughter, she's going to blow you away every 3 months, every quarter, every semester that she gets through that. She's going to blow you away.
It is wild to see even in, since June, the transformation.
Yeah.
I mean, even when we were at one of our 9/11 Heroes runs for the Travis Manion Foundation on Sunday, and she took leave, and we're standing there, and she's in PT gear, she's in her shorts and a t-shirt, but as soon as the national anthem, and I'm always the one like, put your hand on your heart, for my kids, and they were always fidgeting when they were little, and I'm like, stand still, what are you doing? And as soon as that national anthem started, she was hands down, tight, and I was like, oh my God, and it was very, I was like, and I didn't say anything, but after we finished, I was like, gosh, you looked so official. And she's, what do you mean? I said, well, she's like, well, I have to stand at attention, but it's just little things like that.
Yeah.
Where you start to see, and just even in the way she talks in a lot of acronyms now, which is super challenging, you know. I mean, everything like, oh, I got to get in my rack, and what, but all her different lingo and terminology. It's sometimes we just laugh and we just let her go, and we know half of what she's saying, but it is so awesome seeing the discipline that you begin to see, and I'm talking about from a kid that was already super disciplined.
Yeah. And
then you see it go up like 10, 20, 30 notches, and you're just like, wow, I didn't even know it was possible, you know?
And how does she manage to internalize the discipline, the standards, the demands of the institution of the Naval Academy, but then still speak through her voice? Mm-hmm. Like that's what she must get to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like she's going to see who's who, and she's going to be attracted to the great speaker, communicator, fit. Something's going to be so attracted to her that wants to be like that.
Yeah.
Right. But at some point, internalize and then speak through your voice.
Yeah.
And you if you can get there faster than most, you'll be okay. Yeah.
I love it. All right, we're going to do some rapid fire questions. Okay. You ready? Your favorite leadership book?
Yes.
Or is there a book you recommend? Like if you've got a young new Marine that says, sir, what book should I read? What are you saying?
Yeah, so my favorite book is Legacy.
Yes.
So it's about rugby team.
I'm familiar. It's
right?
a great book. Such a good book.
It's just, if you just picture this winning organization, and yet they're sweeping and they're making sure that their areas are squared away, and they have if I don't do this, the institution would fall. Yeah. Like if I don't do my individual actions, the whole thing may collapse. So I must do what I must do to not let my brother and sister down. Like,
it's a great book. Someone sent it to me 6 or 7 years ago, and great book.
Yeah, Legacy.
Love it. Favorite duty station, but I already know because you actually told me when we were at the evening parade, we talked about, or no, it was at the symposium the next day.
That's right.
Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Yeah.
Because I got lucky. The people who were on in charge of my safety and development. I don't know if I told you this, but my roommate that I landed in, my roommate brings me in and says, "Hey, these are days where you can drive in Okinawa and do whatever. I have a PFT, a physical fitness test tomorrow, and I want to make sure I'm under 18 minutes.
Yep.
So please, we're gonna drive up to the start of the course, and then you're gonna drive behind me, and you're just gonna yell out times." And I'm like, okay. So he run the 17:30 or something like that, right? The night before the physical fitness test, just to make sure he was under. So the standard that I landed in my room was already like, holy
Super
moly,
high. Yeah.
right? It's like, I want to be like this person. So that, and then my NCOs, and I always speak about Sergeant Tukes and Sergeant Doherty, who were just incredible NCOs, so demanding, but approachable in a weird way. And you can just feel that they wouldn't allow anything bad to happen to you, but they would smoke check you if you didn't deliver on effort.
Yeah.
That's all they wanted was effort and for you to improve.
So you're just super blessed that that was their first place. Yeah,
that was perfect.
Love it. Okay, best piece of advice you've ever received?
Take your time. So don't be in a hurry. And I answer that quickly because even to this day, you enter the service and you may be in your head in a race to find your love of your life and get married and have 3 kids and have a white picket fence and travel and adventure and cars, and take your time. Figure out who you are, who you want to be, what makes you go. What you thought you were joining the Marine Corps for may not be it. So just take the time to figure yourself out, right? I waited till I was a sergeant to get married the first time, and I still failed. But I should have taken more time, right? But then I took my time the second time around, right? So follow my own advice there. I didn't. I thought I did, but I didn't. Still, I have beautiful daughters from it. Worked out great. So I would say take your time to figure out what makes you go.
I love it. If you weren't a Marine, what would you be doing?
A cop.
A cop. Okay. If you weren't a cop, if you weren't in public service as a first responder or a Marine, what would you be doing?
A coach.
Coach. I love that.
Yeah.
What would you be coaching?
I would be coaching anything. But the sports that I played I was a horrible baseball player, so I couldn't make the team. But basketball I did, and track. So anything that has to do with motivating young people.
Love it. Yeah. What is your go-to comfort food?
Tamales. Straight tamales.
Okay.
But don't put sauce on top of the tamales. Like if you're the sauce person on top of tamales, I don't want to talk to you.
No sauce on top of tamales.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a restaurant thing in DC, and
that's not authentic.
that's not a thing.
Okay. I'm going to Puerto Rico for a service expedition in January.
Okay.
With a group of Gold Star family members. So
Yeah.
I'm going to order tamales. I'm going to see how they come out.
Sauce on the side.
Sauce on the side. Got it.
Okay.
Tamales. What's one thing that's still on your bucket list, either as a Marine or outside a Marine? One thing that you're, those things that, they're ticking around in your head, something you want to do.
I always thought that when I would retire, this is sick in my head, but when I would retire, in the morning, I would run a perfect physical fitness test score, and I would take a 30-minute break and run a perfect combat fitness test score.
After you retire?
Before I retired.
Oh, before you retire.
And then I would retire that later on that morning
with
those perfect scores, right?
I think you got to do it. Yeah.
So that's in my brain.
Okay.
Because I promised myself that I would do that. I have...
Are you guys taking notes on that? You got to write that down.
I have I have grace because now it's an age thing. But does that count if I use the age excuse?
I don't think as the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps you can use age, and you're not that old.
Yeah.
I think you got to still work towards that goal. Yeah.
I don't know.
I like it though. What one piece of advice you could give to a recruit?
To a recruit?
Yes.
You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Just one day at a time. It is scripted. It is a process. There are professionals. They know exactly how hard and how fast to take you, to push you.
But not break you.
But not break you. So they know exactly where that line is. And they'll take you there. And it's all, it's survivable. Millions and millions of Marines have done it. And you will do it too. And if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth it. So stick with it.
I love it. What is your proudest achievement?
My proudest achievement? Oh, that's tough.
You gotta humble brag a little bit.
No. There are times where I get the frequency just right of the room. And I can feel them breathing, and we are connected, and the room is dead silent, and no one's moving. That's a proud moment for me because I was compelling enough for a few short seconds where I may have just made you think about something, and you will pivot from that and change a direction that maybe you were just going off a cliff. Maybe I gave you just enough to try one more time.
I love that.
Right? Yeah. So those are proud moments.
Yeah.
That it's hard to achieve. But I feel in the room every time.
I feel like you have more of those moments than you let on. I think you probably have a lot of those moments.
No, I just feel, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
On ship, I was talking to some Marines on the mess hall, and it's very noisy, and there's people walking around. It's on ship. People are busy.
Right.
So I had a bunch of Marines, and I scan, and I'm scanning, and I see one that's not interested. And this is the person that probably had duty, had 8 hours and hating life right now. And they're like, you're going to go hear the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. Like, good Lord,
yeah.
I need
Tired.
to get some sleep here, right? And I get that. Not interested, Marine, right? And then, so I'm giving it, I'm firing for effect here. I'm giving everything I have to get the, like this one, right? And the question was asked about, why are we allowing a service member, a young person, not young, a civilian to come into the Marine Corps, and then we promote him to gunnery sergeant after they graduate boot camp? Why are we allowing that to happen? And I said, and then just the answer is because maybe they have an exquisite skill set that the Marine Corps needs, and we're talking like a handful of them who are prior service, who still have to go to boot camp,
right? Because
our culture will not allow anything different, right? That's why. But I said, well, what if they don't have to go to boot camp and this skill set is enough, and we make him a gunnery sergeant? That kid ears perked up.
He was like, wait, what?
No, what? He has to go to boot camp.
Yeah.
He has to go to, aha.
You are listening.
Even the grumpiest, even the Marine Corps F me. I hate everyone. I hate the walls. I hate everything. Like, no. You're going to have to go to boot camp. You're going to have to go to OCS to be in our tribe.
Yeah.
So that's fine. No, we're still okay.
I love that. That's so cool. What Marine, past or present, were you most inspired by?
General Bellin, David Bellin. David Bellin retired now. Was my last boss. And I had a first class seat. I took an education from that person for 3 years of watching someone communicate at a level that I never thought possible. And he was, I mean, I have a master's degree just from watching him. Yeah.
And what music are you listening to when you work out?
Podcast.
Oh, you listen to so you're not listening to music?
No.
You listen to podcasts?
Yeah.
What's your favorite podcast? Outside of
after
mine, of course.
yours, of course. There isn't one that I have.
What's on your rotation?
I can't say it because I'll get crucified. But people send me so many podcasts that there isn't one that I really like cling into.
Okay, but I love it. So you're listening to podcasts when you're working out.
I'm listening to something.
Okay.
I can't do just one thing. Mm-hmm. I need to be writing, listening.
You're doing it
I
all.
need to be. I'm running out of time.
You're running out of time.
So, yeah.
Okay, when you look back over the course of your life, obviously in order to be a Marine, I believe you have to demonstrate some level of resilience. There's things you've had to overcome. When you look at the course of your life from, coming over here, learning English, joining the Marine Corps, going all the way through, you're now the Sergeant Major. How did you learn to live a resilient life? And what does that look like for you? How does that show up every day?
It shows up and here's what the picture that comes into my mind means. So that's what's showing up in my head right now. Because for me, I have the means to the experience, I have the resources, I have friends and acquaintances who can help me. Would I ever share that I have a problem? I have a hard time doing that still. I'm from the generation of you're not allowed to have personal problems because that means that you are not focused and committed to the core. That's all we care about. Times have changed, and we're doing so much better. And so for me, I worry constantly about that Lance Corporal and the Corporal who come from nothing, who are breaking a history of abuse or financial disasters and drugs, and they did just enough to get through our doors, and we opened up the door of opportunity for them, but they're still young, and they're still developing, and they're still under our care, but they don't have the means that I have today to, when things crash, that they can recover. Yeah. Right? So I worry about that constantly. If I put myself in the Lance Corporal world, 1994, whatever it was, because Lord, that was a long time ago. I could make mistakes, but it wasn't posted on social media or for everyone to know.
Right.
It was contained, and it was, only certain people knew. And although I fell on my face and it was embarrassing, and I thought the world was going to end, people still didn't know your face.
Yeah.
Right. Today, you make a mistake, and everyone knows.
Yeah.
Right. So, how do I create a person that's resilient, who can withstand that pressure? Because it is pressure, just constant pressure from the institution to perform, for you to meet the standards, pressures from your family who's pulling you, pressures from your friends. It's just constant pressure. Like, how do I build that person to slow down, and trust their leadership to be able to say, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, I am overwhelmed. Like, how do I get that into the minds of our leaders today, that you're going to have to come down the 10,000 foot elevation all the way down. And that's why Sustaining the Transformation came out. And that's why Leading Marines came out, this new publications, to help you. Here's where you can pivot from. This is where you can start. Irrelevant today where you can seek help or at least make yourself vulnerable enough to ask for help. So for me, I had the luxury of growing up without social media and without the pressures that people have today. If I fall from grace today, it's going to be a long fall, right?
Yeah.
And Mexico will be calling my name because that's where I'll go. but I spend my life now is strengthening, unpacking the suitcase and putting in the right stuff in there. So we don't just say who we are, but we wake up in the morning trying to be that. And I'll give you an example of who we are. General Gray passed away, right? And anyone showed up to this funeral.
Former Commandant.
Yes. Of the Marine Corps, which is a god that died. And if you can picture Arlington National Cemetery at the chapel with the body bearers and the entire battalion of Marines out there, 8 former commandants, Medal of Honor recipients in the room, just there to pay their respect, right? And then you move down to the final resting place, and you have the A-10s flying by, and you have cannons going off, and everything that a 4-star general gets, right? That should get. What people don't know is that the very next day I went back for another funeral. Maybe the 8 former commandants weren't not there, but I was there. Maybe there wasn't a flyover, but everyone else was there. The same body bearers, the same staff, the same everything. But this was for a private first class who gave us everything he had in Saipan 80 years ago, right? And we were still looking for them to bring him home. And we that's who we are.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty awesome to belong to. Even if it's just for 4 years or 20 years. I've had conversations about service with people who serve for 9 months.
Yeah.
It is like they've been a Marine their entire life.
Yeah, it's part of their identity.
So I don't even know what your question was, Ryan, anymore. But
you answered it.
There you go.
I mean, I think one of the things is that the Marine Corps is actually built to design you to be resilient, and I think that's kind of what I got the takeaway from your answer to be. So I'll end with one final story because, when I first met you, I came to the Pentagon and you were, well, I had met you prior. I met you at Army Navy.
Yes.
You came and I saw you at Army Navy, and then I came and met with you at the Pentagon, and you were very soft-spoken. You get that a lot, I'm sure. And then you had me as a guest of honor at the evening parade, which was awesome, or sunset parade, I should say. Was it sunset or evening?
It was sunset.
Sunset, sorry, I get them confused. At the sunset parade at Iwo Jima. And we were coming around and we were taking the bus in, the little shuttle, and the Marines were all lined up behind the statue before the parade. And so all of my impressions of you were, just, obviously the way you talk, I can tell why you're so respected. But I kept saying, gosh, he's the sergeant major. And, I've met a lot of sergeant majors and they're a little bit, what's the best word?
Caffeinated.
Yeah, they're kind of like bulldogs. They're they always look a little grumpy. You always have a big smile on your face and you're so personable. And we get out and you said, we're just going to say a quick hello to these guys. And we stopped the shuttle and you get out and you start knife handing these guys with a voice I've never heard come out of you. And I turned to the person next to you on the shuttle. I said, oh, that's why he's the sergeant major. It came out of you and I was loving it. And I came back and I was telling people this story. I was like, oh, I now know why sergeant major is the sergeant major. Like I saw him in all his sergeant majorness with those Marines, do not screw up, knife hit. And I loved it so much. I didn't tell you that night, but I just got such a kick out of it. And then I got up behind and I said, way to go, guys. Great job. Thanks for being out here. But I got such a kick out of that. And I think to show the way that you can lead with discipline and compassion, right? That if I look at, from the outside looking in, that's really what I see about you. And I think that clearly your Marines are responding to that. Yeah. And it's been incredible to see. And I just want to publicly thank you again for the way that you have gone out of your way to make sure that the Marine Corps and what you do for your Marines doesn't end when they take that uniform off, that you show that continuation and you've pulled the Travis Manion Foundation in to be part of that continuation of care and support for Marines, through the rest of their days. So
yeah, the reason why I was connected with you was because of what happened in New Orleans with the little girl who wanted Travis Manion Foundation to identify her as, you're legit. You set up a race. You brought in a congressman. This happened to be a congressman in the community to run a 3K, whatever it was. And I said, what are we doing? And the master gunny who worked with me, he's like, hey, you come and be the guest. And then you speak a couple of things, say a few things before the race. And I was blown away. And that's when my journey towards finding out what you were about began. Because the people in that race, finishing the race is winning for them. And when I was speaking to them, again, where are you? Right? I'm trying to figure out what frequency you're in. Yeah. The Marines in the platoons in the school circle, when you get them riled up and you're like, hoorah, and then you speak their language, inside that formation, there's going to be 1 or 2 or 5 that are just going along and life is kicking the shit out of them.
Yeah.
But when they're there, they're protected. They're protected by their brothers and sisters. There's nothing that can harm them if we look inward and run towards each other. So I just, for the two worlds belong to me and they make sense to me. And that you're bringing people out of their homes, you're bringing people and they're connecting with others that just may save their life that day. You have no idea. Yeah. Marines are experts and civilians are very good, but Marines are experts, are putting their best face forward all of the time, showing you what they want you to see.
Yeah.
But it is on the leader, it is on the person to get what's really going on every day. Don't let them fade away. Don't do it.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ryan.
This was great.
It's awesome.